Is this your king? Baba Heru. Yep, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? What up, though? It's Monday, beginning of the work week. We are here. And of course, we got to say what's up to the party people in the chat. We got most excellent Theophilus. We got Edward Smith. We got Bodega Lady Shotty Mills in the building. We got the real American Mr. Phil Fox. Man, it's going down. And as always, if you have not yet already, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell two more friends that it's him again. And if you like how it's going down with the BK, please show your love via PayPal. Or if you'd like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you can become a patron. We get an assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. And yeah, we got more people coming in. We got my man Romy Rome in the house. We got Bodega Lady Michelle Turner. We got Chris Gibson. That's what I'm talking about. We got another Bodega Lady just stepped in. We got D New.
Shotty's being messy.
I defended. Yeah. Inside joke. Ah, that's hilarious. So, um, as you guys, many of you know, we are in the midst of a series called "Is This Your King?" where basically we're taking a stroll through the what's known as the pillars of the conscious community, the master teachers, the triple OGs, if you will. And we decided to really address some of the claims that they've made against Christianity over the years, because a lot of people who are part of this community now have received their instructions from these individuals. So we figured, you strike the head, the body falls, and that's what we decided to do. So Shotty's hilarious. And I got some very capable men to help me on this journey tonight. Of course, we got all the way from Dayton, not your average pastor, CMB the ambassador. What's going on, sir?
What up, Doe? How you doing, brother? All right, glad to be here tonight.
Yes, yes, yes. And of course, we have from the other side of that Mason Dixon line, giving us that Southern hospitality, the David Ruffin of urban apologetics, MJ Jackson. What's going on?
Grace and peace to you. Grace and peace to the chat. I'm just here to continue this journey that we have been on. This journey has taken us through the cemetery where we have dug up the bodies of these so-called pillars.
Show me the bodies.
It's not personal. There's nothing personal.
Not at all.
We're dealing with the arguments, and if we have to dig up corpse to deal with the arguments, that's what we'll do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So CMB, this is your first time in the series. So what are your thoughts of what you've seen transpired thus far?
I'm surprised y'all ain't been arrested yet for this. I'm just saying. Hurt feelings, federal offense,
Oh man.
Now y'all been doing a fantastic job, man. I've been loving it. I was really hoping I could get on for the Ray Higgins joint, man, because I got personal beef with Ray Higgins, bro.
Oh, wow.
If I see him, it's on sight and I'm playing. Like that, but, I see you in the streets.
On sight.
Man.
Oh man, but yeah, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot for a long time from Ray Higgins, so I just say, you know what, I'm gonna jump on sooner or later. And that was a great night as any. Why not, man? So
I mean, hey, if the people want, a second go around with a couple of these guys, that there might be Is This Your King 2 for Ray Higgins? Who knows? If people want it, we'll deliver. You know what I mean? So,
nice.
But tonight's honored recipient of the Is This Your King is Baba Heru. Baba Heru, the elder of the Shrine of Ma'at, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samaj Se Patah, brought forth the practice of Kemetic spirituality when he founded his own shrine in the 1960s, known as the Shrine of Ptah. So Baba, rightfully carries the moniker of father or elder because he has been doing this for quite some time. And as MJ said, this is not slander. This is not a hit piece. The man has never done anything to me. From what I could tell, I've been in the same room once with him. He seems to be very genuine in what he believes. But when you come and you critique against Christianity, you have to know that eventually somebody is gonna question your critique, and that's what we're here to do. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with Baba Heru, but what you do know, like what are some of your initial thoughts about his critiques about our faith?
Well, I know that he's a revered individual, with comedics. Um, he's made a few statements. He doesn't say a lot, but when you give him the mic, as we will see, he kind of started, going in, so to speak. And I don't hold to an epistemology where just because you are deemed an elder that we can't say anything to you. Trust me. I mean, there are a lot of quote unquote older seniors who spit bad Christian theology, and we go after them. So just because you're over a certain age or that you have been around for a while, I mean, that doesn't exempt your ideas or what you say from being questioned and critiqued. We'll do it in the spirit of humility, of course. And I'm gonna give you credit for the life that you've lived, which is what my mom always says. Give me credit for the life that I live. I'll give you credit for that. But when you come over into theological circles, into historical circles, when you start putting yourself out there as an expert, but just get ready.
Facts. CMB, any words before we get into this?
Yeah, I would say my sentiments would be pretty an agreement, pretty much an agreement with what MJ just said. I again, you can't get a pass just because you have gray hair. I have gray hair and I can't say nothing crazy. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it's a couple, they're in there somewhere. You know what I mean? But it's like you can't just get a pass just because. And unfortunately, um, I would say maybe and we may be touching on this later, but during the time when people like Baba Heru, people like Malana Karenga, people like the other OGs were coming into prominence. People were extremely thirsty and hungry for Black empowerment on the collegiate level. And so maybe in an attempt to right some wrongs around the time of the civil rights movement, the pendulum swung too far, and instead of whitewashing everything was blackwashed. That's what I seem to get from it. But there's more to the story, I'm sure, but you can't get a pass just for that kind of thing. That's all I'll say for now.
Cool. So with that, let's get into it. Yeah, so it's already queued up at the 54-second mark.
You
MJ?
better believe it.
All right, let's get to it.
All right. Make sure I got the volume up for you wonderful people.
Because our freedom, when Martin Luther King said, free at last, great God Almighty, we are free at last, I said, oh, Martin, I love you, but Martin, you are not free because you just invoked the name of divine given to you by those who enslaved you. He said, great God Almighty. You didn't say great Nature Almighty, okay? Because you knew by now. You have a PhD. You should know by now
You can stop there.
that what.
So he's claiming that in Martin Luther's "I Have a Dream" speech, that Martin made the claim that he was free, and that you're not free because you invoke the name of the God of your oppressors. Now, most of us who grew up in America are very familiar with this particular speech. Iconic speech, right? Growing up elementary school, every MLK day, someone post a meme or a video clip of this speech. Now, gentlemen, in this speech, did MLK say he was free at that time?
He did not.
No, right? But just so you know, he's stupid. Let my let me show my screen again. Yeah, you know me too well, bro. So just to get some context, let's look at a couple of portions of the speech. And CMB, if you could be so kind to read this for us.
Okay. I was about to be stupid. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say unto you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the on the on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
Continue.
And when this happens, we will allow freedom ring. When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Right. When this happens,
Uh-huh.
right?
One day.
One day, not today,
Mm-hmm.
one day.
Facts.
And I mean, for someone who I believe is sincere when it comes to the liberation of black people,
Mm-hmm.
for you to completely take this iconic speech out of context is troubling.
Right.
Because whether you like MLK or not, or do you, if, you know, I know there was some discrepancies about maybe his theology. The man put in the work. The man put in the work. He put his life on the line. And for you to you know, misunderstand such an iconic speech that we all grew up listening and watching,
Mm-hmm.
it's strange. I mean, what are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Strange indeed. There is a trend within that community to basically crap on, and I'm using some strong words here, uh, black Christians from that period of time all the way back to our brothers and sisters in chains. It's almost like they're embarrassed. It's almost like there's an embarrassment in what they do to try to explain the relationship of MLK or Frederick Douglass to the worldview, where the worldview was beaten in them, it was given to them. Uh, they used it in a pragmatic sense because that's all they had. And then if you listen close enough, when they invite atheists and stuff on their platform, like Mandisa Thomas, she'll argue that, you had Muslims who came over on the ships. You also had other spiritualists. They don't like to say religious folks, but you had other people who held to different religions who came over on the ships. But somehow, some way, it was these people who embraced Christians that were the least smartest, that were the most gullible, that just were naive to everything. So they're embarrassed, yet they eat they eat the fruit of the results
Mm,
of Christian men who acted on their convictions. They, in a certain sense, bite the hand that has fed them
hmm.
like a dog.
Wow. Yes. Yes. Strong language indeed. So
Yikes.
let us continue. So, MJ, if you can fast forward to the 1 minute 27 mark, please. All right.
From the land of the Nile. When I visited the the pyramid complex at Saqqara. In the pyramid of Unas, on the first line, it says of the king Pepi the first, "This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased." Those words were plagiarized and put into the mouth of God when John the Baptist was baptized by Yeshua. When Yeshua was being baptized by John the Baptist, a voice came out of heaven saying, "This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." No, that voice didn't come out of heaven. That voice was taken off the temple walls of Kemet. Okay? The 104th Psalm was written by Nefertiti's
All right,
husband,
you can stop there.
the one that.
So Baba here is making the claim, the accusation that when Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist and God said, "This is my beloved," that somehow that is a ripoff of something that was written in the pyramid of Unas, right? This is what he's saying. Right? I'm not misquoting him, right? That's exactly what the claim is. Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what we need to do is understand the context in which this word beloved is being used in the pyramid, right? So, but for us to understand that, we got to dig a little deep, right? So, with that being said, Phil Fox, here I go, sharing my screen once again. Uh, we're going to look at the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt by Ian Shaw. But the main innovation of Unas pyramid, and one that was to be characteristic of the remaining pyramids of the Old Kingdom, including some of the queens, was the first appearance of the pyramid text, inscribed on the walls of its burial chamber and other parts of its interior. The pyramid texts represent the earliest large religious composition known from ancient Egypt. Some of their elements were created well before the reign of Unas and mapped out the development of Egyptian religious thought from pre dynastic times. The deceased king Unas is identified with the god Osiris and referred to as Osiris Unas. Okay. The reason for their inclusion inside the pyramid was to provide the deceased king with texts that were regarded as essential for his survival and well being in afterlife. Their mere presence was probably deemed sufficient to make them effective. So understand these things were written on the wall so that the Nasut, the pharaoh, can traverse the Duat, right? The underworld to make it to paradise. But he needed these inscriptions in order to maneuver through the Duat. Okay. The pyramid texts are largely concerned with the deceased relationship to two gods, Osiris and the sun. Egyptologists once considered these two themes as independent views of the afterlife that had become fused in the pyramid text. But more recent research has shown that both belong to a single concept of the deceased's eternal existence after death, a view of the afterlife that remained remarkably consistent throughout ancient Egyptian history. This is the ancient Egyptian pyramid text, James P. Allen, Peter de Monolian. All right, to continue, the text in the antechamber begin with a spell on the west gable addressed to the spirit, quote, "as you emerge from the duat." Spell 158. These are spells, okay? These are spells. And its opening words refer to the rituals that have been performed in the burial chamber. Quote, "your son Horus has acted for you." This is the last ritual text in Unis pyramid. The other spells in the antechamber and those in the corridor are all of the personal kind, originally meant to be recited by the spirit itself as it made its way out the tomb. So basically, he has this script that he has to abide by once he gets reactivated by the priesthood after his death. Okay. The remaining texts on the west gable concern the spirit's emergence from the duat, and those on the west and south walls, its passage through the akhet. Okay. So the last spell on the south wall addresses the gateway at the eastern limit of the akhet, and those on the east gable and most of the east wall are meant to ensure the spirit's safe transition through this portal. So In order to go through portals, he needs to have these spells. All right, we're talking about spells and portals here. Okay, the latter began with the so-called cannibal hint, spell 180, through which the spirit absorbed the essence and power of all the forces of the universe, and continued with spells for protection from inimical beings. All right, so we get into the part where the beloved word is being used. All right, little Ennead, this one here is Osiris, whom you have made revive and live. He will live, and this Unis will live. He will not die, and this Unis will not die. He will not perish, and this Unis will not perish. This is the spell that we're looking at now. He will not be taken away, and this Unis will not be taken away. He will be taken away should this Unis be taken away. Nut, this Osiris, here is your son, of whom you said, someone has been born to me. You said you wiped his mouth for him after his mouth had been parted, his beloved son Horus, and his limbs numbered by the gods. He will live, and this Unis will live. He will not die, and this Unis will not die. All right, this is the Unis burial chamber passage, south side. Does this sound like the baptism of Jesus?
It does.
Really? Please, pray tell, please break that down.
No, sir. I think if they would have found something like this wrote on some toilet paper in Kemet, they would have tried to say that the Bible plagiarized it. This is ludicrous. This is really ludicrous. Stop.
But let's again, yes, MB, before I continue again.
No, I'm just saying this seems to be like, and we've seen this before on multiple occasions where people are like, when they say these things, they're relying on the ignorance of the audience. They look the part. They in cosplay. No disrespect, but you in cosplay. You know, you got the big ankh in your lap, so that gives you it's a talking stick. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So you can have like unfettered access to people's minds and say anything. You can say any doggone thing and people will believe you. It's
very
crap.
performative.
It's absolute dog poop. But I mean, it's one of those things that we're trying to be respectful. But I mean, come on, like this is not this is not the same thing, and it's not close to the same thing, right? So if you're trying to say this is just like that, it is plagiarized, right? You got to do way better than that. I'm just saying.
Right. And again, context is key.
Mm.
What we're seeing here is a recently deceased king try to traverse the Duat safely by going through portals and casting spells, right? As opposed to what we see with Jesus and John the Baptist. Like, what's that context, right? Well, we're gonna look at the unseen realm, and this is what Dr. Heiser had to say about it. Mark 1:11 has God's voice from heaven pronouncing, quote, "You are my beloved son, with you I am well pleased." We tend to think of this declaration as a sentimental one, or perhaps some verbal token of affection. It is far more than that. When God refers to Jesus as his, quote, beloved, he is affirming the kingship of Jesus, his legitimate status as the heir to David's throne. The key term is, quote, beloved. Scholars have noticed that the term was used of Solomon, the original heir to David's throne. It's difficult to discern that in English translation, though, since the Hebrew term gets translated as a proper name, Jedediah. Right? Solomon is referred to as Jedediah in 2 Samuel 12:24 to 25. David consoled Bathsheba, his wife, and he went to her and slept with her. She bore a son, and he called him Solomon. And Yahweh loved him. He sent word by the hand of Nathan the prophet, so he called him Jedediah because of Yahweh. Notice the wording, quote, Jedediah is a name or term that Nathan told David the Lord wanted to assign to Solomon. The name in Hebrew is Yediyahu and is related to Dawid or Daid, the proper name David, which also means beloved. Used of Solomon, the term amounts to a title that marks Solomon as the legitimate heir to the Davidic covenantal throne. The same message is telegraphed with respect to Jesus. God's own voice announces this is the king, the legitimate heir to David's throne. So one, the Pharaoh, dead, by the way, he's dead, gets brought back to the spirit world by the priesthood through various rituals and incantations. And the spirit itself now has to use these same spells to go through these portals to make it through the Duat, whereas Jesus is his kingship is being affirmed by God. Totally different context here, people. So I don't see the thievery here at all. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, you're not looking at it through a lens of like, eisegeting the text through the lens of they plagiarized it, so you're gonna look for
Right,
things like that,
right,
and again, it's not even like a close type of language that's being used here or similar circumstances. It kind of reminds me of this the Kersey Graves nonsense with the 16 crucified saviors, and like none of them are crucified.
right, right,
It's kind of a problem.
right.
But when you're trying to make something happen out of nothing, and it just doesn't hold water. And on a quick side note, if anyone ever is looking that up, I go ahead and look up the 6th edition of the World's 16 Crucified Saviors. Look at that. So the 6th edition, what you'll find when you look that up, there's a group called the Internet Infidels Incorporated, right? And they have a disclaimer that nothing that is in the book should be trusted. So
Wow,
if the internet infidels are telling you don't buy into this garbage, then you probably shouldn't. I'm just saying.
wow, that's
I'll throw
crazy.
that in for free.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. MJ, your thoughts?
Mm, I mean, yeah, this is throwing a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks. And just in the back of my head, understanding the context of the pyramid text, right? This is not, is this mass produced for the public,
No, no, it is not. It is.
right?
Well, at first, it was specifically for the Nisut only.
Okay.
This is during the Old Kingdom. It was not for the common folk. What happened is that when the first kingdom collapsed, they had an economic collapse. That's when the information started to seep into like the middle class people. But it was never intended for people like me and you. It was only for the king.
Okay. And so I would like to see some evidence where this information was like disseminated amongst the masses, right?
It
I mean,
leaked. It got leaked.
well,
Let's be
I'm just
honest,
saying
right?
disseminated amongst the empire,
Oh,
right? I mean,
right.
we got papyri of the Bible in the we have it in the Western Kingdom and in the Eastern with the where the Orthodox folks is. Uh, we have it in Egypt. We have it in Greece. I mean, this is a nasty joke. This is really a nasty joke that's being played on black people. And so another thing, can anybody say that, hey, this is my son, I love him, without it being plagiarized? Like if my daddy told me that, would that be plagiarized too? Like
Stole it from Kemet, son.
would that be stolen from Kemet? This is really not, it's not smart. Like this is really a lame argument. It's not even an argument. It's a lame assertion. Number one, we don't have evidence that it was mass produced. Number two, where's the evidence that that Jews, who most scholars believe were illiterate, could even read
The middle netter.
the metadata? Like, give me a break.
It's bad. But again, if you just take the time out, and we always say this, and CMB says this in his channel all the time. We're back to Bible basics. Context. If you look at the context, it dispels all these weird accusations every time. Right? So with that being said, MJ, if you can fast forward now to the 2 minute and 36 second mark.
And we are trapped in this because the age of Pisces supported belief So we were trapped in belief because the cosmic force mandated that this is the belief age. But guess what? We're now into the I know age. So belief must sit down when knowledge is on the scene. Now you can know who you really are. You don't have to believe. As I said before,
You can stop there.
this is your temple, this body.
So there's a lot to unpack here.
Mm.
But the first thing, and I'm gonna let MJ have added here, because we hear this a lot from the conscious community. This separation between believing and knowing, right? Because when we ask one of them, well, do you believe in such and such? It's like, oh no, I don't believe. I know, as if that's some kind of deep thing to say, right? So MJ, is there a correlation between believing something to be true and knowing something to be true?
Absolutely. And I'm just going to quote Kevin McCain, who is an epistemologist. That means that he specializes in studying knowledge and the philosophy of knowledge. And he says that you cannot know a proposition which you fail to believe. For instance, if you do not believe that the sun is more massive than the earth, we would not say that you know it. Now, we would have to be careful because sometimes people do talk in a way which makes it seem like no one does not require believing. In some cases, a person might say something like the following: I do not believe that the sun is more massive than the earth. I know it is. At first, we might be tempted to take such expressions as evidence that you do not need to, perhaps even cannot believe that P, that's a proposition, in order to know that proposition. That would be a mistake, though. It is much more plausible that when someone says, I do not believe that proposition, I know it, what she is really doing is expression that she does not merely believe that P. After all, this person will exhibit the same behaviors as someone who believes that proposition. She will be willing to assert that proposition is true. So he's trying to take issue with a quote unquote blind faith, but he's using language incorrectly. And some people might get offended by the very fact that I said that he is incorrect in how he's using, because what is a belief? A belief is nothing but your attitude that you hold toward some proposition. Say Jesus existed, right? Do I believe that to be true? Yes. What is knowledge? Do I know it to be true? Well, I would have to believe it. I would have to have some evidence for it, and I would have to be justified in believing it based on that evidence. And so Adam Coleman uses the analogy of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Well, it's the same way with knowledge. You have to have what's called JTB, justified true belief. If any one of those elements are missing, just like if any one of the elements of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is missing, you can't properly call it a sandwich. Likewise, if you have no justification for something that you say you don't know it. If you don't believe it to be true, you don't know it. And if it is not true, guess what? You don't know it. Oh, there he is.
That was scary. The minute you mentioned his name,
Good
that
grief.
was crazy. It's the Candyman of the UA.
Adam, I just dropped your peanut butter and jelly sandwich analogy.
Oh, did you for real? And I show up some Candyman stuff. Y'all know what it is, bro.
What's going on?
Y'all know what it is. What's happening? What's happening?
Adam, you're popping in on where Elder Heru, Baba Heru, is saying that we are not in the age of belief, but we are in the age of knowledge. And he's really making a distinction between believing something and knowing something. And what are your thoughts on that, my esteemed brother?
Well, yeah, it sounds like you already went through it. You already used the peanut butter analogy, but I just think it's funny. I mean, if you just think about common sense, like you can't, know something that you don't believe. I would just ask the thought of the audience to just really think about that. Can you know something that you don't actually believe? That doesn't even make sense. It's just commonsensical to recognize the belief is an aspect of knowledge, or a component of knowledge, I should say. And I think that what happens is, and this is, when we got Oops, shoot, like my earpiece out. But this is when we was dealing with Brady Goodwin. I think sometimes what you have is a situation where people say something that sounds deep. I mean, like, I'm sure some dude on 125th years ago probably made the statement about belief and versus knowledge. It is just kind of stuck ever since. But if you begin to study these things and realize, like, no, these are people who are actually jacking up like actual philosophical categories and concepts. It just kind of illustrates the fact that they just flat out don't know what they're talking about. It's just really that simple. They haven't really thought these things through. So I'm sure you got into it already, but I mean, typically, well, I guess I'll say a classical definition of knowledge is that you got some sort of justified true belief, and then particularly in your more recent literature, many philosophers will add in what they call warrant. But nevertheless, regardless of how you slice it, you can't have knowledge without belief. I'm saying, regardless of what you think, like, nobody's really confused about that in the world of epistemology. They may disagree about justification. They're going to disagree on things like, on what warrant is and how it works and so on and so forth. But as far as, belief, that's that's going to be in the conversation no matter what. If you don't have belief, then you don't have knowledge. Simple as that.
Well, I think the issue is for many of them, they've come across people who say they believe in something but cannot articulate what it is that they do believe in. So in their mind, it's like, oh, so belief must be bad because I keep running into individuals that say that they believe but can't articulate said belief.
Let me say this. I think that right there is a failure to make the distinction between believing in something and believing that something, right? When we say that we believe in God,
sorry,
shout out to Lecrae.
My bad. I was trying to get to the, just like comment in the chat. I was trying to get over to our video right now, bro. My bad.
No, you good.
I am a professional. I promise you.
When we say that we believe in God, right? We believe in God to be who He says that He is. It's a allegiance. It's a trust in. Now, when we say that we believe that something, it's just like what I mentioned. We believe that a certain proposition reflects reality, right? We believe that a certain proposition is true, such as I believe that my door is closed, or I believe that I locked the door. So it's a basic distinction, and it would do some of our friends some good to just become a little bit more literate with the field of philosophy, because that's a weakness in that community. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm getting
give me flag, Adam. What's going on, man?
Get you a copyright strike out the gate. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, I couldn't agree more, man. And we've had these conversations, MJ, about epistemology and particularly how I think that is like the soft underbelly, of the conscious community. But I think that in a lot of ways, well, let me say this. I think sometimes you could, if you're like ministering to somebody who's regurgitating these kind of fallacies and just nonsensical mess, just have them turn that same perspective on their own worldview. So for example, like a minimal, I know that's one of Jabari's favorite. He stays quoting the minimal. Well, how do we know that a minimal existed, right? What evidence do you have? At some point you're either going to have to point to some sort of writing or some artifact or whatever. And at that point, I think actually I don't even know if there are any artifacts. Certainly there aren't any that can be attributed to minimal directly. But you're going to have to appeal to the same kind of things that we would, suggest when it comes to like Jesus or something like that. You know what I mean? So in this case, okay, let's say, all right, you think that we don't have knowledge. You still in belief. And sometimes they'll break it down where it's like the B and the E and then the L-I,
right.
L-I, B, it's a lie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, cool. So then you can say we can just turn that on them. You know what I mean? Unless they can substantiate with facts and evidence whatever it is they claim to be knowledge, then the only thing that they can say that, which we know they can't 90% of the time, which means that kicks them into the category of belief. So now they're just we're on equal footing there. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes, man, we do ourselves a disservice of trying to rush in and provide responses. rather than make them hold their own weight of whatever claims that they're making, man. You know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
CMB.
All right, yeah. So, what's up, Adam Coleman? I think it's like the second time we've
What's
been on
good,
this
bro?
panel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Those up, man. It's good to see you, brother. But
Yeah.
yeah, listen. I this Sunday I had the privilege of teaching at my church, and we're actually talking about getting the gospel right. And MJ brought up about faith, and that's the word that gets used around a lot. And again, just what you were talking about earlier, both of you brothers were talking about the difficulty in sometimes articulating one's belief or one's faith. Then it becomes a problematic thing and and at that point, people are then accused of having blind faith, and Christianity is nothing more than wishful thinking. So I'm going to kind of show just a couple of slides that we shared, and just kind of based on Romans chapter 1. I'll just read a couple of verses here and show you some of the slides that we used actually in Sunday school. So
All right.
if that's cool. So I'm going to share real quick. Yep. Let me know if you can see it.
Okay. Hold up. Here we go. Boom.
All right. Full screen.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. So I'll just kind of read through this real quick. And this is the only passage that we'll look at. So Paul's writing. He says, "First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for all of you, because of the news of your faith has been reported in all the world. For God, whom I serve well with my spirit in telling the good news about his son, is my witness that I constantly mention you. I always asking in my prayers that if somehow in God's will, I may now at last succeed in coming to you. For I want very much to see you, so I may impart to you some spiritual gift to strengthen you. That is, to be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine." Right? So when we look at the word faith right here, right? A lot of times that word gets misconstrued, right? And you can see in the bottom part, it's in blue, it says to be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, right? So when we look at the word faith and how it's tended to be defined, typically speaking, what the word pistis is what's being translated as faith in the New Testament in English translation. So most of the time you'll see this, and more often than not, it is talking about belief, yes, but also trust and trustworthiness, faith and faithfulness, right? So you have to have a certain level of faith in something, right? That it will do what it's supposed to do, right? So what I mean by that is this. And the analogy that I used was that some of the people were sitting in chairs, some of the people were sitting in pews, or whatever the case was, on Sunday morning. And I was like, at some point in time, when you sat down, you thought to yourself, "Okay, I'm going to sit in this chair." You didn't really have to think about it too hard whether or not the chair was going to hold you up. You've heard that analogy before. You knew enough to know that you could probably reasonably trust, that you could sit in that pew and it would hold you up, right? So that pew has a certain level of trustworthiness. It has been reliable in the past. So
Right.
it's easier to trust. And the same thing with God. When God reveals himself in scriptures, it's a kind of a bad analogy, but you get the idea, where God has revealed himself enough to where he is trustworthy, then you can actually put your faith in him. You can actually have him be, you can be faithful to a God who has shown himself faithful, right? You can trust a God who's shown himself to be trustworthy. All right. So that said, this is kind of jammed up on my screen here. But in the word the word breakdowns in one of the lexical sources underneath here, this last slide I'll share, it says pistis used collectively at all the times God has revealed himself, his will, and includes the revelation of scripture. Indeed, God, the Lord, guarantees that all of his revelation will come to pass. Now, you don't trust anybody who's going to guarantee something if they're not trustworthy, right? The old saying in the street sometimes is like, a promise is a comfort to a fool, right? That's because if everyone's trying to hustle each other, right? I'll stop sharing from there. But if everyone's trying to hustle each other, it's not, you can't really trust one another.
Right.
But if you have a God who has shown himself to be trustworthy, if we are able to be trustworthy as brothers amongst each other, then I can trust Fredo, I can trust Adam, I can trust MJ, and they can trust me as well. So going back to that passage, when we're saying, when Paul was talking about being mutually encouraged, one, they're showing themselves to be trustworthy, and two, the people can trust them, and vice versa, right? So that's kind of where that's at right there.
And that's a good point, because if it's really blind faith,
Mm,
How can I put courage into you by giving you something that I can't really rely on?
right.
That makes no sense. That's not encouraging, right?
Right.
You're making me more paranoid, if anything. You know,
Right.
because I'm on shaky ground. You know what I mean? So so not only does Baba say that, this whole knowing and believing, but it's said within the context of the age of Pisces. And when he said that, a whole lot of red flags went up for me. I'm like, hold up, Baba. Wait a minute. Because now you're talking, Zodiac now, right? Is Zodiac a comedic thing? I wasn't quite sure. So what I decided to do was look into it, as you guys know I like to do. And in the book called This is the Sun, Zeitgeist and Religion, Volume 1, Comparative Religion by Albert McHaney, he says, while the sun is at the center of the story in Zeitgeist, it is not the whole story. The basis of astrotheology is the sun's travel through the zodiac with different ages associated with astrological signs determined by the precession of the equinoxes. It is claimed that religions going back millennia are based upon this system. So, how do these claims stack against actual history? The answer is resoundingly negative. In the 19th century, and even early in the 20th century, many scholars still believe the zodiac had been used for millennia. The writers of Hellenistic period thought so, and scholars of early modern era agreed. There existed no real evidence for such an early date, but scholars had not yet worked through the implications of recent archaeological finds. Once they did, the belief in a very ancient zodiac fell by the wayside. The result of scholarship in the last century is very important to our study, and so this point must be made very clearly and forcefully. The system of zodiacal astrology was not in use in the ancient cultures. Mentioned in the film prior to the first millennium BC, when it develops over a period of centuries in Babylon, thus to claim the sun's movements through the zodiac were the basis of ancient religion is anachronistic, as the worship of pagan deities mentioned in Zeitgeist preceded the zodiac by centuries, if not millennia. The early foundations of the zodiacal system was set down in Mu'apin, again inscribed in 700 BC, but which likely reached its final form around 1000 BC. It lists the constellations along three broad bands in the sky, roughly parallel to the equator, and is described as three paths of the gods. One of these paths is along the ecliptic, but groups the stars differently with 17 constellations rather than 12. Some of these 17 constellations are equivalent to those of the zodiac. An impetus for a more intricate astrological system occurred when the Babylonians began keeping diaries of the night sky in the 7th century BC. The first reference to the zodiac in a diary occurs in 464 BC, and the period that follows saw the casting of horoscopes. Hence, with this outline, the idea of the zodiac tracing back to 10,000 BC or earlier is pure fantasy. As for Egypt, it was once believed to be the birthplace of the zodiac in astrology, via who? Our good friend Hermes Trismegistus. Once again,
Mm-mm-mm.
this fictional character rises his head again. But historical research has rendered this view untenable. The Egyptians were certainly interested in the heavens, but their mathematics, considerably less sophisticated than its Babylonian counterpart, did not provide the theoretical tools to match the Babylonian skill at predicting events in the night sky. The Egyptians devised a calendrical system based on the heliacal rising of stars every 10 days, which was called decans. But even this did not occur until the first intermediate period and the Middle Kingdom. There was nothing equivalent to Babylonian astrology, and no sign of belief in the influence of planetary alignments and the role in religious belief. While decans and the Egyptian calendar will later merge into Greco Babylonian astrology, this did not occur until the Ptolemaic dynasty in the Hellenistic period. The Egyptians never independently devise their own astrology. This is not African. Once again, we're having somebody who is a Kemetic practitioner using something as if it's African when it's not. Is this your king? But it gets better though. It gets better. Well, I should say it gets worse for him, right? So this is so we
This is
know that
pretty bad already, man. I don't know if we can take anymore, man. You know,
no,
it's
it
just
gets bad. It gets
throw in the towel. Throw in the
bad.
towel.
So we now know that it does not have its origins in Kemet. And when it does come to Kemet, it comes during the Ptolemies, aka the Tamhu, the white man,
Mm.
who gets it from the Babylonian. All right, so it's like third hand information once it gets to Kemet. All right,
Hand me
but
down.
hand me down theology, absolutely. So, and one could say, I guess Kemet plagiarized Babylon. I mean, if we're playing the game, we're playing the plagiarism game, right? But anyway, so we're gonna look at um this an email that was sent to Noel Swertlow, is a professor of astronomy and astrophysics at the University of Chicago. He has specialized in the study of the practice of astronomy and antiquity through the 17th century. I emailed Dr. Shortlow on this matter. Here's what he had to say on Miss Murdoch's view. This is a refutation of a Curry S book, but it fits what we're doing here today. In antiquity, constellations were just groups of stars, and there was no borders separating the region of one from the region of another. In astrology, for computational purposes, the zodiacal signs were taken as 12 arcs of 30 degrees measured from the vernal equinox. Because of the slow westward motion of the equinoxes and solstice, what we call the precession of the equinoxes, these did not correspond to the constellations with the same names, but within which group of stars the vernal equinox was located was of no astrological significance at all. The modern ideas about the age of Pisces or the age of Aquarius are based upon the location of the vernal equinox in the regions of the stars of these constellations. But the regions, the borders between those constellations, are a completely modern convention of the International Astronomical Union for the purpose of mapping and never had any astrological significance. I hope this is helpful, although in truth, what this woman is claiming is so wacky that it's hardly worth answering. So when this woman says that the Christian fish was a symbol of the coming age of Pisces, she is saying something that no one would have thought of in antiquity, because in which constellation of the fixed stars the vernal equinox was located was of no significance and is entirely an idea of modern, I believe, 20th century astrology.
But BK, what about the fish symbol in Christianity? Isn't it the?
No, it's not. No, it's not. So
Man,
not
come
only
on.
is it not an ancient, it does not have its origin in Kemet. It doesn't come into Kemet until the Ptolemies bring it.
Mm,
And even when it's there, it's not what we use today. There was no age of Pisces or age of Aquarius in antiquity,
right.
right? And the reason why they even had these different ages now in modern time is for the purpose of mapping. It's a technical thing they're doing with different degrees and stuff like that. So where is Baba getting the idea that the age of Pisces had something to do more with enlightenment and knowledge, and right? Where's he getting that from?
Maybe in that lodge, fam.
Well, as we'll see in this book
Funny you should
entitled,
mention that.
right, great segue there,
Speaking of
buddy.
the lodge, but
Astrology and Cosmology in the World's Religions by Nicholas Champion says the chief engineer of Blavatsky's new astrology
Oh man.
was the English Eastern Theosophist Alan Leo. Leo concluded that astrology should abandon its predictive pretensions and focus instead on, wait for it, spiritual awareness.
Mm.
Enthused by Indian philosophy, not African, he proclaimed that astrology makes no sense outside of the moral framework provided by the doctrines of karma and reincarnation. Leo's insistence that the soul was central to astrology was to become orthodoxy among some of the most influential astrologers of the 20th century.
Unbelievable.
Wait. The theosophist Max Hendel
They can't
gave
help themselves, can they?
gave gave what may have
Look at all
been
these
the
white folks.
wait. Oh, first verse. Oh, first.
Oh snap!
Gave what may have been the first relatively detailed version of the astrological ages in his Message of the Stars, first published in the 1900s. Hendel joined the Theosophical Society after moving to Los Angeles in 1903 and formed the what? The
Rosicrucian
Rosicrucian
Fellowship.
Fellowship.
The
Wow.
Fellowship of the Rose.
The
Wow.
Rosy Cross.
After 1907, and his teaching, writing, and publishing activities made him an important figure in the spread of astrology. In the early 20th century, the Aquarian age, he announced, will be illuminated and vivified by the solar procession of the upliftment of the Son of Man, Aquarius, by the Christ within, the line of Judah, Leo, to the estate of Superman, adding that the age will bring Christ's second coming, the wedding feast of the higher self, to the lower. Handel's work was paralleled by that of Rudolf Steiner, who achieved prominence as the leader of the German Theosophical Society until 1912, after which he left to found his Anthroposophical Society. I can't even say that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah.
Anthroposophy is perhaps the most vibrant of New Age movements, standing at the heart of a network of organizations such as Waldorf Schools, the Camp Hill Trust, which assists disabled people, biodynamic farms, which apply Steiner's astrological theories to agriculture. Steiner developed a historical cosmology that postulated a major shift into the new spiritual age, known by later advocates, including Robert Powell, as the New Age. Humanity, in short, was to be transformed. In Steiner's astrology, the shift into the age of Aquarius is regarded as an essential guide to the universe's spiritual evolution and hence to the individual's relationship with the cosmic whole. While never a member of the Theosophical Society, the psychologist C.G. Jung, erstwhile colleague
There
of
we go
Sigmund
again.
Freud, yeah, right,
Mhm.
name, and the founder of analytical psychology, was certainly a theosophist in that he believed in the underlying truth revealed by all religions and followed previous ideas that the beginning of the astrological age of Pisces around 2,000 years ago coincided with the origins of Christianity. So, once again, Blavatsky, Theosophy, Rosicrucian, they all showed up. They all
The
showed up.
gang is all here.
The gang
It's
is
like
all
the
here.
usual
Scooby-Doo
suspects.
villains, bro.
Right.
Scooby Doo
Usual
villains once you
suspects.
unmask them.
But again, we
Yo,
keep
you know,
seeing-
I don't mean to cut you off. You know, it'd be hilarious. Show. We need a meme. You know, like with the Scooby Doo.
right,
They
right,
always
right.
unmask the dude at the end. You know what I'm saying?
Blavatsky.
We need to
Elena.
take off like the
Right,
Baba
right.
Heru mask, and you find Helen Blavatsky or something like that. This is
And
like,
I wouldn't gotten away with it. It wasn't for you meddling apologists.
right.
Right. But once again,
Oh,
though,
snap.
once again, we see someone who makes a claim of being an ancient Kemetic practitioner using information that has nothing to do with ancient Kemet.
Man, and this they do this all the. I don't know if people catch it, but like in the intro, like little song that I have like for my channel, is me talking to Jabari, and I say like it's like you guys teach stuff that's literally unrecognizable to an ancient African, you know, and this is that kind of stuff that I'm talking about. They pull them from India and Germany, and you know, thousands of years later, and all this kind of stuff, man. And it's just like they pawn it off as if they're scratching that ethnic itch, when in reality, all they're doing is putting blackface on New Age German foolishness. You know what I'm saying? Foolery. That's really all they're doing. every day, all day, you know. And then they accuse us of practicing the white man's religion. I'm like, fam, your whole
Exactly.
squad white, and I don't have anything, you know, like I don't have a problem with white people. Like that's not my issue, you know what I'm saying? But if you're gonna play that card, like your whole roster of OGs is white.
I heard, excuse me, I heard Vocab Malone say that y'all got more white boys than the Dallas Mavericks.
Yo.
Oh man.
Like Baba Haru's like Kyrie Irving. Is that what we're doing right now? Oh snap! But it's true though.
But he is a Kemetic priest. According to his bio, he's been doing it since the 1960s.
And see, and this is what they don't like to hear, man. And you know, and you got to be careful how you say things. I respect, you know, everyone as a human being. You know, they're made in the image of God and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to being like a reliable source of information, right? You know, Baba Haru, you know, everybody in the Is This Your King series. I'm saying, you know, Professor Smalls. I'm saying we could run it on down from the OGs to today, Dr. Ben, whoever, Henry Clark, whoever. Like I don't respect none of them as being reliable sources of information. Simple as that. I hope they get saved, or well, you know, some of them have passed on, but in this list. But the bottom line is like none of them are reliable sources of information. They're just, their works are fraught with just anachronisms, fallacies, and just flat out falsehoods. Just flat out falsehoods. And I mean, it's like the conscious community is built on this deck of cards on like a bowl of jello. You know what I mean? It's just like this wobbly, you know what I mean? It's built on a pseudo foundation. So it's, to me, it's laughable. You know what I mean? When you have people who come in the Christian community, they're like, oh, y'all a bunch of dumb Christians. I'm like, fam, you believe a guy has been a master teacher who doesn't know his left from right. He couldn't, you know, I can't even pronounce the word, theosophize his way out of a wet paper bag. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy, man.
And you know what? I don't know if Baba even knows that that's where he's getting his information from.
Oh, I doubt it.
He might very well believe that what he's spitting is ancient African theology, and it's like it's German occultism. That's what you're spitting.
That's it.
You know, the more we talk, and we've talked about this before, BK, on different platforms, but when you talk about the advantage that we have in 2023 to be able to go and research things a lot easier, you know, because I mean, imagine if you have to stack up, you know, go to the library and stack up 50 books and kind of thumb through this thing and get the Dewey Decimal System and get the librarian to help you out and so forth. You only would have so much access to so much things. And mind you, these men are many of them are from the Northeast. You have large libraries like in New York and so forth like that you can check. But at the end of the day, few people were able to fact check in real time like we are. And one of the things,
that's a great point.
You know, thank you, brother. And one of the things that the disciples of these men should have done and should continually be doing is fact checking. If you really cared about Black folk, if you really cared about Black empowerment, you can't empower Black people by basing Black empowerment on lies. You just can't do it. We're not going to get anywhere, you know, buying into this nonsensical trash, right? We're not going to get anywhere doing that. And here's my thing. If you can look at what you have and put that on the table and look at the historical record about Christ on the table, you know, I think Christ comes out on top every single time. You know, this is why we're Christians. We're able to look at this stuff and see what's been said, and it stacks up and it comports with reality, both physically, philosophically. You know, you can look at historically, you can name it on down the line. You know, this thing that we call the scripture is absolutely true.
Right. I mean, there's no need for this therapeutic mythology that they want to massage into the psyches of Black and brown people. There's no need for that. You don't have to make up fairy tales to empower Black folk. Which is funny because that's what they say we're doing, right?
Right.
But you're doing that horribly for a very long time. Again, the defense against a white hegemony is not a Black hegemony.
Thanks.
It's not. It's the gospel. And why? Because it purports with what's real. Black people are amazing in real time. in real time and for a long time.
True.
You don't have to make stuff up, guys, to feel great. The gospel does that,
Yep.
So,
I'm gonna
but
take it a step further, and I don't mean to be inflammatory. You
yes,
know,
you do. Go ahead, though.
I really don't. Yeah,
I'm not buying what you're selling, big dog. I'm just
Not
saying.
at all. Not at all. Not at all.
I don't mean to be entirely inflammatory.
Oh,
You
okay,
know what I
that's
mean?
better.
That's
But
acceptable.
no, but I mean, I'm just kind of piggybacking on what Colin said. Like, if you're in like the early 1980s, right? Like pre, definitely pre internet. And let's say that and I'm not trying to be mean. I know this doesn't characterize everybody in the movement, but let's say that the education has failed. The education system has failed you. You're in African American context, and you hear somebody like a Malachi New York spitting something on the corner, that sounds
Right.
just whatever he's saying. You don't understand it, but it sounds deep. I mean, let's keep it 100. I mean, like, I'm a hip hop head. I didn't know what Wu-Tang was talking about, but it sounded hot. You know what I mean? So I would go around spitting the lyrics. I didn't know that all the different worldview, all the beliefs that they were kicking in their rhymes, and how seriously they took it. But it just sounded dope. So I spit it. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of people, like, to Colin's point, if you don't have the means or the wherewithal to be able to, discern what's the real from the fake, then maybe back then, okay, I get it. But in 2023, fam, come on, bro. Come on, man. Google is right there at your fingertips. You know what I'm saying? Yep. You can get legit. You can go to Google Scholar right now, and you can pull up all kind of free articles on just about any topic you want. You know what I'm saying? Free PDFs and everything, like from legit scholars. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do that right now. It's not hard. Some kind of way between MJ and BK Apologists, like all books that have ever been printed, like they have both of them in their possession right now. I don't know how they do it all. I'm saying either MJ has bought it or BK Apologist has downloaded it, one or the other. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or MJ memorized it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got all kind of resources. So it's really no excuse at this point for this kind of nonsense, man. But I think at the end of the day, is that we're not dealing with scholarship here. As you say all the time, BK, this is a matter of like pseudo therapy. That's really what this is. You know what I'm saying? It's a matter of scratching the ethnic itch, that feeling of ethnic insecurity. It's a matter of trying to feed it with lies, and it's just not working because you're still coming up empty. It's not working, man.
And look, if you still don't want to follow Jesus, that's fine. But if you're leaving the church for an authentic African experience, you're not going to get it with Baba Heru. I'm sorry.
That's it.
You're not going to get it from his son in the faith, Jabari, either.
I don't care how many unks he make. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get it, bro.
And they're beautiful.
They're really
beautiful.
Nice.
They're beautiful.
The talking stick.
It's no disrespect. Like Baba Heru was at the debate. Alfredo, you was there.
I was there.
You know what I'm saying? Baba Heru was there when you're supporting Jabari. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, that's his son of the faith, or however they would frame it. And both of them is pseudo as all get out. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jabari is a chip off the old block. He just kind of, cleaned it up for modern times, but he's still from the same Germanic, Hermagistus.
Hermes Trismegistus.
Trismegistus, the same family tree. You know what I'm saying? It's just a reality, and it's no disrespect. It just is what it is, man.
Well, I'm gonna just put it to you like this, and this would be outside the context of Christianity. Just as they are embarrassed by people like Martin Luther King and Frederick Douglass, as a person who aspires to one day become a professional professor, this field, what they put out there is embarrassing in terms of scholarship, right? Mm-hmm. African American studies departments have been under attack for decades, and this is what we have to show for it. I do believe that there is a African American canon of books and things like that, but the pseudo stuff has to be dropped for the dignity of our scholarship, for the dignity of our people. Gotta drop this crap. This stuff is embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Right. And to to Adam's point about the whole, Google thing, whatever, it's not that hard. I'm the only person on this panel that doesn't have a degree. I don't have a degree, guys. I don't even have an associate's. I have a couple of college credits, tops. I have a high school diploma.
Too cool for that.
So I'm stupid. So if I, a layman of laymen, if I can figure it out, you guys can too. Come on,
Yeah.
come on now.
For everybody, man. MJ, just out of curiosity, this might be somewhat off topic, but you would have a better understand this than I do. But like when it comes to what you refer to, like just African American studies, like what does it look like in terms of there being a Christian presence in those kind of circles? I feel like it's probably pretty slim, or like I feel like that's where there's a need there. There's a need for Black Christians to be in those spaces. Does that sound right to you? Or?
It's very slim. I mean, I like Dr. Eddie Glaude, but he's not the type of Christian that is going to really rely on the objectivity of the work of Christ. It's more pragmatic, right? So, I mean, that's about Eddie Glaude is about as good as it gets in terms of a presence in the African American studies. Dr. Vincent Bacote is respected as well, though. He's respected, but I would say that you got a lot of pragmatists.
Got you. Understood.
I just say Vince Bantu just needs to clone himself and that'll be good. Just teach all the classes. But I wanted to kind of address something real quick with BK. Just like seriously though, even though you don't have a quote unquote degree, your critical reasoning skills are what set you apart from the average layman. You're not the average layman at all. Facts. Like it's not even close. And I'm not saying that because you're my boy. It's the absolute facts and truth. And people who know this and have seen you bring your slides to a barbecue, like for real. This really happened,
Oh snap!
Talk about being ready. You know what I'm saying? At any point in time, because you take it that seriously. And going back to the Google thing, yes, Google's at our fingertips, but just a sidebar. I don't care if you're Christian or not, and especially for Christians, we have an obligation for truth telling and truth seeking, right? Mm-hmm. A moral obligation to do this, right? But everybody, you need to learn how to search on the internet. You need to learn how to ask questions that will not just attack your or scratch your confirmation bias itch. For real. You know what I mean? Learn how to do proper research, learn how to vet statistics when you read them and so forth like that. And that will help you tremendously. I don't care what you study in. I'll just throw that out there, please.
And I just want to second everything that Kyle Ambassador says, specifically when it comes to BK apologists. Like don't downplay yourself, brother. You know what I'm saying? You're sharp as they come, and I would never want you to downplay yourself, bro.
No, I appreciate it. I'm just saying that it's doable. I'm not some high exalted. I'm not in the clouds of academia, and I'm not. So if I could, that's what I mean. You know what I mean? So
gotcha. Yeah,
that's all.
I'd hate to debate you.
And so would they? They know what's up. Baba Yaga. Yeah, they don't want to see BK apologists on side. They know what's up.
They don't want them problems.
BK is Baba Yaga.
Death by 1,000 slides. By the time you 10 slides in, it's already a wrap.
Oh man, you guys too kind.
You already know, man.
But
that's facts.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But on that note, guys, final thoughts and what can we expect from you guys in the immediate future? Let's start with MJ.
Well, I got to get with Adam Coleman because we got to do a debate review sooner or later. We'll work out the details. Been trying to put out a little bit more content more frequently with Chris Bryant Samuel. We do have one that we're going to do, we're going to listen in on Monique Dusan and Melissa Doherty because they had an interesting conversation. So we're going to listen in on them. And then, of course, I got a few podcasts that'll be rolling down as well.
CMB, what final thoughts and future stuff?
All right, final thoughts. Stay away from pseudo scholarship. Good lord, because we might have to get you. All right, that's part one. Part two, where I'm gonna be at. Check me out on my channel. Right now we have Back to Bible Basics with the Ambassador, or CMB with me, Triple B with me. We have season 2, and right now we're going through verse by verse through the book of Hebrews, man. So it's been dope. It's been exciting. It's been challenging for all of us to kind of look through that verse by verse through the book of Hebrews. Thursday nights, LIVE live, 9:35 p.m. Eastern time. And you also just subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can see whenever we go live. So thank you for being there, and we'll hope to see you soon on Thursday.
Nice. Mr. Coleman, True ID. Final thoughts and future things.
Yeah, as far as final thoughts, hey, thanks for having me. Hop on the
Of
show late.
course, of
For
course, of
sure.
course.
Had a good time as always. Just final thoughts, man. Hey, man, let's keep the pressure on, man. The fields are white with harvest. We need all hands on deck with respect to sharing the gospel. Listen, I've had some interesting experiences over like the last like 2 weeks, man. Like I wish I could share it all, but I mean, I'm telling you guys, like, all this stuff makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like there are people who are literally turning away from Hebrewism, turning away from Comedicism and this, that, and the third, as a result directly of what God is doing through videos just like these. I'm saying, I was just on the call earlier today, and a brother was reporting to me that a Hebrew Israelite came out of it, you know what I'm saying, due
Wow.
to these videos, you know what I mean? So
Wow.
what we're doing is important. But that being said, I think that we would all agree that one of the motivations as to why we do this is to educate believers so
Right.
that you can go talk to that cousin, go talk to that brother or sister, mother, father, coworker or whatever about the gospel, man. So I just encourage people. We are all ministers of reconciliation, and I believe that the work of reconciliation is not for a few; it's for everybody. So,
Right.
I just encourage you to get out there and witness, man. For the gospel. Also, just as far as coming up, got some more, got some more podcasts coming up. Got some more YouTube videos coming up. I'm really kind of focusing on that 30 to 45-minute time frame. I'm trying to get away from the the 4-hour joints. You know what I mean? So, got some stuff coming down the pike in regard to that, man, and just just really trying to keep the pressure on. Oh, also, when it comes to my website, I don't really mention it a lot, but I do have a website, trueidapologetics.com, and I'm going to be hopping back on putting out blog articles on that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to make that a regular thing, bring that back, as well as on Substack. You can follow the Shield Squad. We got some articles on there, me, Vocab, D New, Chris Samuel, and so forth. You know what I mean? So trying to get my pen back out, man. I got to get my pen game back right. I kind of slacked off as far as writing, trying to get that back right because I'm working on my book, man. So I gotta tighten up. But yeah, man. So you know what it is, man. Trying to keep it popping with your ID, bro.
Nice, nice. And as for me, this Wednesday we will continue the series with Anthony Browder, somebody that
It's a
MJ
fan
has,
favorite.
Yes,
somebody, somebody that
Fan
MJ
favorite.
has experience with. So we're gonna be visiting Mr. Browder, and we'll have some thoughts on his claims as well, and maybe a few other people, and then we'll close out the series. And I'm glad that it's been received well, and I
Yeah.
pray that it's a great resource. That once again, really, and it's not about just beating people up. It's about just for the believer to know that when you made that good confession, that you was in your right mind, it was reasonable, and it was true
Mm,
facts.
when you
Mhm.
made that good
that's right.
confession. You know what I mean? So with that being said, and that's this Wednesday at 9 Eastern Standard Time, or EDT. I always mess it up.
You
So
say EBT? B as in
EDT,
boy?
I don't know. I don't know.
You said EBT?
EBT.
EBDBDB, BDB, I don't know.
BBD?
Snap
BBD,
benefits. 935.
East Coast family.
Yeah.
No, with that being said, True ID, CMB, MJ, BK, peace.